Good morning. Good morning. Perhaps it's good afternoon, or perhaps it is good evening, depending upon where you are on the globe. And luckily, I was able to begin early. Welcome to those that may come in and also those who may catch the replay. Tonight's live is based on laced envelopes sent to election offices this week. And in normal fashion, before I begin, I will present my Fair Use Act disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, which states, allowance is made for fair use of copyrighted material for the purposes of commentary, criticism, news reporting, research, education, teaching, and or scholarship. It provides for the legal, non-licensed citation and or incorporation of copyrighted material by others which might be infringing under other circumstances. And to be safe, the viewer discretion disclaimer. The following broadcast contains mature themes and situations intended for adults. Viewer discretion is advised. So, tonight and or this morning, depending upon, again, where you are on the globe, I'll be speaking about these laced envelopes. So briefly, to those who may not have known, and I spoke about it briefly on my quick live to introduce this live, authorities were hunting today, or yesterday rather, for the culprit or culprits who sent suspicious letters, including some that contain fentanyl, to election offices in at least 5 states this week. Again, 5 states this week that delayed the counting of ballots in some local races. Those states include Georgia, Nevada, California, Oregon, and Washington. Again, those states, Georgia, Nevada, California, Oregon, and Washington. According to AP News, again, I implore you to do your independent research, but you can find this information on APA as in Apple, P as in Paul, News. And it states 4 of the letters contained fentanyl, according to the FBI and U.S. Postal Inspection Service, in a statement they provided on Thursday. Law enforcement is working diligently to intercept any additional letters before they are delivered in that particular statement. Pierce County, which is in Tacoma, Washington, according to the auditor's office, released images of a letter showing it had been postmarked in Portland, Oregon, and read in part, "End elections now." So one of the images released from the auditor's office in Pierce County, which is in Tacoma, Washington, with a postmark from Portland, Oregon, stated, "End elections now." In Seattle, King County Elections Director Julia Wise said that the letter appeared to be the same one her office received and was very similar during the August primary, which also contained fentanyl. So this actually dates back to, according to the report, which again can be found on AP News, dates back to August, at least for Seattle. Another office in Georgia, you all have really, according to many reports, have really been in the spotlight. Another office allegedly targeted was Fulton County. Again, Fulton County in Georgia, which includes Atlanta, and notably the largest voting jurisdiction in one of the nation's most important presidential swing states. I will repeat that again because I think that is very pivotal. Fulton County, Georgia, which includes Atlanta and is the largest voting jurisdiction in one of the nation's most important presidential swing states. Authorities were working to intercept the letter. The Secretary of State said officials were sending the overdose reversal drug Naxalone to the office as a precaution. Also, and this is very glaring, the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, stated, and I quote, "This is domestic terrorism, and it needs to be condemned by anyone that holds elected office and anyone that wants to hold elected office anywhere in America." In California, the United States Postal Service intercepted 2 suspicious envelopes that were headed to facilities in both Los Angeles and Sacramento. Lane County, Oregon, which includes the University of Oregon, were investigating a piece of mail that arrived at the local election office on Wednesday. No one who came in contact with it had experienced, at the time of this report, any negative health effects. The incident did prompt officials to close the office and delayed an afternoon pickup of ballots. So that is an overview of what is going on in reference to this story. And now I am going to attempt to share the screen to show a few short videos. And this is going to be a brief overview on fentanyl. Your comments are welcome, and the link is there for anyone who would like to chime in. Again, fair use courtesy of BBC News entitled Fentanyl, Why Are So Many Americans Passing Away from Synthetic Opioids?
Fentanyl is a highly potent opioid. It's at least 50 times more potent than heroin. People are being exposed to fentanyl without knowing it. And because it's so highly potent, people are dying at unprecedented rates. What's happened in the United States is fentanyl has entered into all these different parts of our drug supply, including the heroin supply. Cocaine, for example, have increasingly been tainted with fentanyl. Pills that are sold on the street that might look like regular prescription pills are very often fake counterfeit pills that have been made with fentanyl in them. Someone experiencing an overdose will have this decrease in breathing, might lose consciousness, might start to turn blue or pale, and within a few minutes can die. Narcan is sprayed up the nose, which is very easy for people to administer. It's safe, it's effective. There's virtually no downside to doing so. It's a critical tool that I encourage everybody to carry with them, to have in their homes so that they can act quickly if they need to. From 2019 to 2021, overdose deaths among 10 to 19-year-olds in the United States more than doubled. In pediatrics, we're not used to our young, healthy patients suddenly dying from things like overdoses, but it's increasingly become a reality for so many of us who practice right now.
So that was the first video that described basically fentanyl and why so many are perishing because of the overdose, and how this drug is finding its way into so many other forms on the street. Next, we'll look at another short video that is an overview of these envelopes. Hey, Key Norfolk, how are you? Hold on for a second. I thought you already were modded. Oh, you are. Okay. Your thoughts so far on this suspicious activity? Again, the link is there, and I'm going to share this screen. Once again, this is an overview of what I just spoke on, but here is the video. And thank you, Key Norfolk.
Things are much less hectic now. Election staff is hopeful to make up for lost time tomorrow, grateful that things didn't turn out to be much worse.
The days after Election Day are typically very busy processing days for us.
Machines hard at work scanning ballots before the verification process starts. A usual sight across election offices in Washington. It all came to a halt around 10:30 Wednesday morning in Pierce County.
Worker who opened a regular old number 10 envelope that happened to have some white powder in it. The worker took off her glove inside out to preserve the powder.
Pierce County Auditor Linda Farmer says the employee's instincts kicked in, remembering protocols. 911 was called, and about 100 staff members evacuated the building. Hazmat crews arrived on scene testing the substance. They came back positive for baking soda. King County Election Headquarters also received a suspicious letter and had to evacuate their building.
So we saw the white powder as it was opened. It's immediately isolated by our staff with a hazmat bucket.
In theirs, something more serious was discovered. Renton police say a presumptive test was done. The powder-like substance had traces of fentanyl, but what was in the package is still unknown.
Officers said that the envelope wasn't fully open, so we don't know whether there's a note inside it or not. It was only open far enough for the work.
Okay, I see you in here, Key. And thank you. Peace and power to you as well. And again, this is in reference to the fentanyl and other substances, which has been deemed as domestic terrorism for the envelope sent to election offices this week. Anybody with any thoughts as to what they think could have precipitated this? And I will share one more video and continue on with my talking points. And again, thank you for those that are here and that will catch the replay. Your comments are welcome. And again, the link is there. This video I'm showing now is for Fulton County, Georgia. Again, fair use.
Election officials are once again in the national spotlight. Georgia's Secretary of State has sent out an alert to all counties that someone mailed a fentanyl-laced envelope to a Fulton County elections worker. Good afternoon, and thanks so much for watching Fox 5 News at 4. I'm Christine Spiro. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger calls the act domestic terrorism, and he vows that state and postal officials will track down the sender. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor joins us from the new Fulton County Registration and Elections Building in Fairburn with more on this developing story. Wow, Angelique.
Absolutely, Christine. This is really a surprise to a whole lot of people. Now, the Secretary of State says that election security is his office's top priority. And he says that fentanyl-laced letter is headed here to this new facility that you see behind me. This is the Fulton County Registration and Election Office in Fairburn. But Secretary of State Raffensperger is hopeful that this letter will be intercepted before it gets here.
This is very, very serious.
Election workers statewide are on edge after learning a letter laced with fentanyl has tested positive for the drug and is well on its way to Fulton County. Election officials got word Wednesday and have tried to track the drug-laced letter down before anyone comes in contact with it.
It was really yesterday that we became aware of the situation, that there's actually still an envelope that was traveling, in the mail headed towards Fulton County.
The Secretary of State says his office notified election officials in all 159 counties and armed those officials in Fulton with Narcan to neutralize the drug.
Training with Narcan, how it would be, utilized, and then also making sure that they are equipped with that.
The Fulton County letter that is still in transit is likely from the same source that sent 4 similar letters to Washington State. Georgia's top election chief says this type of behavior must be denounced.
Okay, those are the 3 videos in reference to the fentanyl and or other substances that were sent to election offices this week. And as the reporter stated, that some of the workers were shocked. I'm not going to say that I'm desensitized at all, but I'm not shocked, and that is because I remember, and for those of you that may be listening, I see a few of you in here, or may catch the replay. You're certainly welcome to place in the comments if you remember anthrax. And again, I mentioned this in my live previous to this. Anthrax letters or anthrax laced letters were sent back in 2001. Hey there, Big Dog Philly. How are you? I know it's early in the morning. The link is there if you have anything you would like to add. If not, then that's fine. And happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. And I'll put this up as well. Much love and respect to you. awesome live tonight, which in a way ties in to this. Absolutely. So to me, this isn't a surprise at all. And a lot of people, as I mentioned in the live earlier to this, you have to live your life, but be hyper vigilant. We are here, many people about to celebrate Veterans Day. Then we have Thanksgiving for those that celebrate Thanksgiving, and obviously Christmas for those that celebrate Christmas. People are mailing packages. People are receiving packages. And I honestly believe because so much time has gone since anthrax. And if you weren't really directly or indirectly in the mix with that, then it may not be something that you would think of daily. But if you are affected or remember someone who was affected by that, certain things you don't forget. A lot of these stories, unfortunately, they go overlooked. They go overlooked. And as I mentioned, there are 5 states involved. I will say this. That's what has been reported. 5 states. We honestly don't know how many states were involved. And as I mentioned, images were released. I do not have them, of one of the letters that stated end the election. So we're dealing with the war. We're dealing with indictments, prosecutions, trials, especially the one dealing with Trump, and then, as I mentioned earlier, with Biden being under the microscope, and then people pointing fingers at the Democrats, at the Republicans, and at some independents. So unfortunately, and again, it's just my perspective, some of you may differ, and that's fine. We can all agree to disagree. That's actually healthy. But from my perspective, when you have all of these variables involved, to me, from my background, that's diversion. And when you have diversion, these things happen. And for those of you who think that after this blows over, and I'm not downplaying this at all, but this is the mindset of many people. After this blows over, things will be back to normal. No, it isn't. You have to keep in mind domestic terrorism, instilling fear. Also, many people believe that government agencies, whether it be local, state, or federal, are the only targets. That is not true. If you're looking at it from an intel side, soft targets leave people more vulnerable. And the reason why I say this is because most government agencies and their workers have training, shelters, and tools in the event of an active shooting event. Suspicious packages. There's countless amounts of in-house and online training to help you decipher what could possibly be a suspicious package and what to do in the event of an active shooting, which I'm going to segue off just a moment to remind everyone of the January 6th insurrection. Being from the DMV, and I've said this and I stand on it, and I would debate anyone, there is no way that the Capitol and all areas in proximity should have been breached. Once you break the plane of 2nd Street and Independence Avenue, Capitol Hill Police is right there. There's no way. There's absolutely no way there should have been a breach at all. Secondly, the Federal Protective Service and many other agencies, including the Metropolitan Police Department, when you have these incidents, and I'm using DC and the anthrax as an example, your manpower is already stretched to capacity. And unfortunately, you have sick individuals who like to play games. When you have these incidents that occur, and keep in mind, at that time, the Federal Protective Service had jurisdiction over the majority of federal buildings in Washington, D.C., which means each call that came in, emergency call that is, staff had to go out. And during the time of the anthrax attack, there were people that found it funny and a joke to leave powdered sugar or the confectioner sugar that you might find on a powdered donut on employees' desks. People were already paranoid going to work. Not only did that cause stress and perhaps emotional distress upon these workers, you thinned out an already stretched to capacity law enforcement capacity. And I know that a lot of people don't have, or they don't hold some areas of law enforcement in high regard, but not all are bad. I say that for obvious reasons to some, but truly, they're not all bad. And keep in mind, law enforcement, no matter what level, they make mistakes too. And the example I will use for that is the Beltway snipers. I'm not sure of how many people remember that, but this is the problem. Many people get caught up, and again, this is my opinion, in labeling, or if we're looking at it from a law enforcement perspective, profiling. Again, I implore you to do your research. But the profile, the initial profile given to the Beltway snipers, John Mohammed and Lee Boyd Malvo, were that of white men with a military background and a white boxed truck. The only accurate part of that profile was the military background. John Mohammed and Lee Boyd Malvo both were Black or African American or whatever colloquialism you would like to use. And they were not in a white box truck. So for about a week or so, law enforcement officials and other agencies were on the lookout for 2 or more white men with military background in a white box truck. Now, am I saying or suggesting that if the profile were more accurate, more lives would have been saved? It's possible, but I cannot say that for sure. John Mohammed, who was executed, was hell-bent on his mission and highly trained when he was in the military. Lee Boyd Malvo, who has appealed several times and been denied, many people say, was brainwashed and quote-unquote groomed by John Mohammed. So I'm saying all of this to say, when you talk about domestic terrorism, it is not a good thing. It is not an intelligent thing to label or profile until you gather all of the facts. I would suggest, and I've suggested this before, to watch the movie Arlington Road. Again, the movie is called Arlington Road. It was titled Arlington Road, Virginia, Northern Virginia, because that's where the incidents of that movie took place. And without giving away too much of the movie, you truly don't know who your neighbors are. They may often give you the best representation of themselves, and then you find out you're living next door to people that could cause you harm. And the world in which you live harm. And they look, talk just like you. I mentioned earlier, and I steadfast on this, live your lives. But keep in mind, there are people that are angry. There are people upset, and you don't know who they are. You can do everything possible to protect yourselves and your loved ones. But unfortunately, no matter how much protection you may have planned, it's not going to stop everyone. I did a live or a video, as well as others, where a judge here in Maryland was deleted because of a court ruling in his divorce case. If someone is that brazen, and again, the gentleman who is also now no longer with us had it dead set of what he was going to do. Some people, they just need that final push over the edge, and they'll carry out eventually what it is they set out to do. Many of these people, in my opinion, and this goes to parents, you need to make sure you're paying attention to the behavior of your children. Some of these parents believe, or they're led to believe, that their children who may be on an honor roll, who may be to some awkwardly shy, and they stay in their room studying, when in fact they may be experiencing bullying in school. And while you think they're in their room studying for classwork or homework, they're actually studying and plotting revenge, researching, perhaps conducting experiments on basic items that may cause catastrophic damage. We've seen and heard stories of these over and over. So again, it would behoove you to play an integral role in your children's lives. Sometimes what you see on the surface isn't what it is. Also, as it relates to these fentanyl laced letters. For those of you that think it's important enough, especially now that the label domestic terrorism has been placed on this, you should look up domestic terrorists. The internet and some books have a plethora of these groups. Pay attention to the areas in which many of these groups are situated. Also, pay attention to anniversary dates. If you research and study and know where to look, you will find that on or about certain anniversaries, other incidents occur. And I mentioned earlier about soft targets. Soft targets are grocery stores, perhaps venues such as concerts, or someplace like a Chuck E. Cheese, places of worship where people are more vulnerable and more comfortable, where they let their guards down and they're not paying attention. And the same tools that are readily available to many government agencies and workers are not available to those that may be in close range of these soft targets. We've heard horror stories of people going into places of worship, grocery stores, and the unthinkable and unimaginable happens. These incidents could happen at any place, at any time. Now, of course, government that so many people get angry with, it's the big target. But if you hit enough soft targets, in my opinion, your goal is being met, because more people will be afraid, at least for a while, to go out shopping or to go out and enjoy a concert or jazz music or anything that takes them away from the social ills of the world. I said this earlier this year, and if you pay attention, listen, but not just hear, there are people in high positions, perhaps subliminally, but warnings were already issued. And keep in mind, just as most of the world, in my opinion, saw that happened January the 6th, who would be a martyr for the officials. I'll just leave it like that. That they are enamored by. They would do anything. No, I'm not saying who is to blame for these letters. I'm not saying what party the culprit or culprits are attached to, because frankly, I don't know. That's up to the agencies that are investigating this. But please don't think this is a one-time incident. As I mentioned earlier, for those of you that may just be getting in or will catch the replay, one of the states, and I didn't know this until I read the full story, went through this in August during preliminary elections. So I'm saying all of this to say there are many people who are against voting, and then there are many that believe in voting. No matter what side of the line you stand, if this is not an indication of what 2024 could possibly bring, and one of my members mentioned that earlier, 2024 is going to be, I'll just say, very interesting. And with everything, as I mentioned, that is going on, be balanced. Again, this is not a fear-mongering broadcast. It is just information that you can find independently. I read it, and again, it brought me back to the anthrax letters. I'm like, okay, here we go again. But to use fentanyl, and people may say, well, only 4 letters tested positive for it. That's not the issue. The issue is the effect that this incident has caused election workers, government officials, families who may now be paranoid. And as I said, when the anthrax attack happened, so many people became so paranoid. A lot of parcels, letters, packages, people didn't want to retrieve them. People didn't want to open them, or they were extremely cautious and they used gloves or other items to open things up. It's almost, from my optics, in my opinion, like a gerbil wheel. I never forgot because I was involved with it and I saw and remember the effects. So there are people, and that's another thing. There are a lot of people that speak about putting up a wall, and they speak about the border. And yes, I get it. And I've said this time and time again. We have, and I mentioned earlier, you can do your own research on domestic terrorist groups. We already have cells here. We've had them here. You could be living next door to one. And they come in every color. But the main common denominator is to instill terror and fear. Hey there, member Melly, how are you? And Melly, you were the one who mentioned what we may have to look forward to in 2024. So I'm sure you didn't see the videos that I posted up, which is fine. It's there on the replay, but 5 states, at least, again, as I mentioned, were reported to have received these letters. And I say that because sometimes information is inadvertently omitted or perhaps forgotten. And Melly says, I keep my eyes wide open. And yes, 2024 will be very nasty. Melly says, every presidential election, a new pandemic arises. Now, I'm sure many people may echo that sentiment, and you may have others that may not, or may say, that's just propaganda or rhetoric. If you listen attentively and pay attention to what is truly going on in front of your own eyes, and I mentioned earlier, diversion. And I'll use DC as an example. When a congressman, I did a story on that maybe a month or so ago, was carjacked. And the question was, where were all of the police officers? Many have retired. And sadly, but truthfully, some of the individuals that are seeking to be recruited can't because of their backgrounds. So you're looking at agencies that don't have the manpower. And then you have groups, a lot of grassroots groups who have campaigns to defund the police. So if you look at it from that perspective, you have many people that may have been interested in applying, but why put your life on the line the minute you walk out of the door when you're not going to be respected from many, and you're definitely not going to be compensated for it? And then you have a population of people who are against policing anyway because of those police men and women who are not the best police men or women. And when I say not the best, I mean who didn't take the oath seriously and abuse power, and they're not really there to protect and serve. And Melly said, Doe, why are you reading my mind? I didn't know that I was. I'm really just speaking from my heart, from what I've seen and observed personally. And those that I know that have retired have shared with me. And then Nellie says, I agree. It's really sad. And the only solution, and it's not even a solution, the only takeaway that I can offer at this time is what I said on the top of the broadcast, is to remain hyper vigilant. That doesn't mean stop your life, but remain hyper vigilant. Make sure that before you are quick to open up anything, and this is a practice I just feel a lot of people should be doing. Some people may disagree, but be cognizant before you're opening up packages. There's a wealth of information available online, and I may put some links in the description that for those of you who may not know what to look for as far as suspicious packages, you may want to do a quick overview of that. But the main tool we all have, the main weapon, in my opinion, that we all have, can't be purchased. It's your brain. Think. Pay attention. Pay attention to your surroundings. Unfortunately, we're not living in the days of old. And because of that, we have to change the way times are changing. And it wouldn't hurt to pick up a periodical or watch some of the trials that are going on. Listen to some of the statements and remarks. Those can be extremely telling if you pay attention. Again, happy Veterans Day to all of the veterans. Thank you for your service. Those that are preparing and getting ready for Thanksgiving, for those that celebrate, for Christmas, those that celebrate, please let this be a reminder when sending and receiving mail and or packages. So with that, I am at my 1 hour mark. And it is now 1:13 a.m. Thank you for those that listened in and those that will catch the replay. Please make sure that you share this information. You don't necessarily have to share the video, but the information to your family and your loved ones, just as a reminder, especially those with little youngsters running around. And we all know they like to pick up anything. And we definitely do not want to hear any of those stories on the news. So with that, everyone, be safe. And I cannot express that enough. Be safe, be safe, be safe. Be well. And we also know this is the cough, flu, pneumonia season for many. And I'm just getting through my second round of antibiotics. Hopefully I can get all of this up soon. So again, be healthier. Thank you all again. And until next time, be safe, be well, and you all know the rest. Be healthier. Good night or good morning.